Hola, mami. Welcome to Solid 100 Daily Build. We are on day 22-ish, 23. I want to talk to you about your feelings and being easily swayed. Okay, some of you, I used to believe, no, I don't want to say some of you, but I used to believe that I was under attack when really I was just being emotionally unstable, swayed by every feeling, opinion, and distraction that had come my way. I want to talk about this because yesterday I had talked about the rabbit hole and how the rabbit hole can really distract you from your focus in God's calling. And it's rooted in not so much the rabbit hole itself, but in being easily swayed and letting it's just like an indication that you are letting your emotions lead your life. And so if your emotions are leading you, your life will constantly shift with whatever is trending, with every opinion, with fear, offense, circumstance. God never called us to be emotionally controlled. He called us to be spiritually grounded. The moment that you can build up, your spirit man can take over your soul, which is your mind, your will, and your emotions. You have to, instead of tapping into, okay, am I going to react? Am I going to take the situation and be spiritual about it, or am I going to be emotional about it? And whoever is the biggest will win. Whichever you are feeding the most will win. And so I want to talk about this because it took me a little bit to really get this going. I know that one of the ways when I was down the rabbit, I feel like you go down a rabbit hole and then it just kind of takes hold of you. And so one of those for me, where I realized I was emotionally out of whack, was in that 2020, 2023 phase where I was getting a lot of flack on social or on my show about the things that I had believed in, the things that I was preaching on, what I was out I was out ministering to people. I was out in the protests and in the marches. And a lot of people in my sphere did not like that. And what was interesting was that I built it wasn't too big, but it was growing on social media, a following, specifically TikTok at the time. And I was wrapped up in all of the followers and shares and like the people that you see now who are big in conservative news. I had relationships with them via TikTok. So it was kind of like, I'm starting to kind of it's getting to my head a little bit. And I'll never forget a time where at the beginning of this, I was pretty vocal about my stances on like what was going on with the government. And it was because of all of the work that I had done prior to that with researching socialism. And just for some reason, I was so drawn to that stuff. And then when 2020 happened, I was like, oh, this is basically the manifestation of everything that had been infiltrated into the US on the low, quietly. And so I'll never forget a time where, you're online and people just start to say things, like colleagues that will just be like, yeah, and they will go in and they will insult you. And then you kind of, I know everybody has gotten to this point where it's like, you get so consumed with what they're saying. And then you're like, how do I respond? We didn't have chat GPT back then where we could be like, how do I respond to this chat? It was like, I can't believe they said this. How do I respond? And it literally was like an all consuming thing that like just stole your attention for days because of these people who are saying whatever on social media who don't actually really know you, and they're insulting you all different kinds of ways and threatening you, and you're like, what is in your, and you're trying to resolve. But I realized that at some point I had to be spiritual about it and be like, it doesn't matter in my case when it comes to responding things on social media, or if people just don't like your personal decisions, you have to come to a place in your life, or I had to come to a place in my life where I had to realize that not all, when you're having a dispute with someone on social, people are not on there to learn unless they're asking you questions. That's like that should be a generalized mindset, where if somebody is not coming to you asking what you think about or what is your opinion on, you should have the understanding that whatever you're about to say or comment is not going to be received, because they're not asking. They're not asking you. So when you give your input, I had to put myself in this mindset. It didn't matter how I responded to things, because their foundational belief system probably was like years in the making. Or months in the making. And one thing that I said will not necessarily change their fundamental beliefs. So if they fundamentally believe that that socialism is good, and I tell them, well, no, this is what history looks like. Give me a historical country. It doesn't matter, because they're going to try and defend their point of view no matter what. They're going to double down on it, because they're not there to learn. And so I had to go into more of a spiritual mindset of like, or I would say more of a logical mindset, where it was just kind of like, they're not here to learn anything. Like, I had to get to the root of those. They're not here to learn anything. The more that you're putting your mind and your attention into this, it's really taking away from what you should be doing. And so I would get super emotional about it. It was like an emotional roller coaster. It was like, you'd get the high from all the follows and all the love, and then you get the low. And then like from people calling you the B word, and from people calling you all kinds of things, telling you to go back to Puerto Rico. Mind you, I was born in Boston. So, I mean, you want me to go back to Puerto Rico? Just send me the tickets, because I'd like to go back. I'd like to go. No, but like for real, like, you're on this roller coaster, and, then you realize I need to hop off of this roller coaster, because nothing is going to change on their end no matter what I say. And I had to learn how to remove my emotions from those instances where if I allowed my emotions to get caught up in that thing, I had to realize, where is that rooted in? Where is it coming from? Are they willing to learn? Is it worth my time to respond? And so I had to learn, you have to be emotionally controlled. I had to learn how to be emotionally controlled when people did not agree with my point of view. He didn't call us to be emotionally controlled. He called us to be spiritually grounded. He does say, have self-control. So I've been doing this with my daughter. We've been discussing emotions, and I've been telling her, you gotta have self-control when it comes to the way that you're reacting to things. And so that is, God does call us to have self-control, but more so than that, He wants you to be spiritually grounded. Self-control is a fruit of the Spirit. And so I'm gonna go over a couple of points as to why flying off the handle is just it's not good for you. It's not good for you. All right. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. James 1:8. When you are easily swayed, you become unstable. One moment you're on fire for God, and then the next moment you're discouraged. One day you're confident, and then the next you're insecure because of someone's opinion, which is exactly what happened in my case. Emotional instability opens the door to distraction and confusion. You waste a ton of time, and it really does affect everyone around you, because you are talking about it, you're focused on it, you're probably on your phone a lot, it's affecting other people around you who should be getting your attention. Number one, feelings make terrible leaders. Feelings are real, but they're not always truthful. They're just an indication that something is going on. The heart is deceitful above all things, Jeremiah 17:9. Culture will tell you, follow your heart. Go do what you want. But God says, follow me. And if Jesus, even Jesus, if he ruled off of emotion alone, he would have never gone to the cross. He told the Lord, he went into prayer and said, take this cup from me, but your will be done. And it was like, take this cup from me. That was his emotion, but your will be done. He knew that he knew that God's will superseded how he felt in that very moment. Number 2, easily swayed people are easily distracted. This was me. I had a situation where I was easily swayed, and it was because of pressure, I felt like. And I'm going to be real with you, because maybe somebody is going through the same thing. You know, when somebody says to you, I feel like God told me you're my wife, that should be a red flag. You should run when somebody says that to you, especially if you didn't get confirmation. And so I felt like I was easily swayed earlier in my life in relationships because of that kind of language. And it was kind of like they knew not I don't want to say the pressure points, but they knew the buttons to push in order to kind of sway me a certain way. Does that make sense? And so, you know, the enemy sometimes doesn't always destroy people through evil. Sometimes it's through their emotional distraction. And so for me at the time, everyone around me was getting married. When I got married, I was 27. I was young, mind you. My ex-husband's he's a good guy, so I'm not bashing him. It was just what I had gone through at the time. But you know, it was that language of like, the Lord told me that you were for me, and then I didn't get confirmation. In fact, I was told twice not to. I felt the Lord tell me twice not to get married. But then you have the culture, and you're listening to the culture, and you're listening to people say you're 27 and Hispanic, you should have 3 kids by now, you should be married by now, you know, your peers are getting married. It's like the hype of what's going on. And honestly, if you allow your flesh and you allow yourself to have premarital sex, can obscure your judgment at the end of the day. And so it'll cloud your judgment. And so because I allowed the pressure, my flesh, what other people were saying to sway me, I didn't have the emotional intelligence to be like, no, I knew in the spirit it was wrong, but I emotionally was like, I even though I tried to, I felt like it was just like I was being easily swayed, and it pulled me off of my mission. It made me doubt my calling. It was just like, it made me feel like my life was going one way, but then when I made a decision that wasn't necessarily what God wanted, it was just kind of like I questioned everything. And because I was easily swayed, it cost me 11 years of my life. Mind you, I have the gift of a daughter. And, you know, I feel like, you feel like your plan A, you know, if I died today, I would be like, yo, I didn't do the plan A. And I feel like God is kind of rerouting me right now to get back to plan A. And so, you know, there's all kinds of grace in that. But Ephesians 4:14 says, do not be tossed back and forth by the waves. And I had to learn when I came out of that situation not to do that again, not to be easily swayed by words or believe everything that comes out of people's mouths. And, you know, I talked about this before. I spoke to, I had a couple of people who were interested, and one guy, I mean, both of them were huge talkers. And I already know that talking is a red flag. Talking and doing are 2 completely different things. They're not the same at all. And so, you know, I had to, even though I felt easily swayed, getting back into, oh yeah, this person said this, and this person, they're going to buy a farm, and this person has a farm, and oh yeah, we're going to live this great life. Talk. I was being easily swayed because I wasn't emotionally intelligent. I wasn't leading by the Spirit. If I was being led by the Spirit, I would heed to the red flags early, which is all I'm about that life right now, where somebody came to me one day and he was like, yo, you know, I think we should get to know each other. I think you're hot. Pause, Bobby, pause. That's cute because number one, Where I come from, the moment you set foot in Puerto Rico, they're like, ay, mi reina, mi amor, hermosa, ¿cómo está? Everybody, they just have like a warm, and it's not sexual. It's like terms of endearment, like, ay, ¿cómo está, mi amor, mi reina, mi vida? You know, it's like that. Like, it's just, you go to the gas station and by the time you leave the gas station, you got 10 compliments. You could be the ugliest woman in the world, and they are respectfully coming to you with terms of endearment. Di que I'm hot. And what else? That's it? Yeah, that's it. Red flag number 1. I am not easily swayed for di que you're hot. Okay? You can't be easily swayed by that. The second thing is trying to compromise. When people try and compromise what I love or my value or my belief systems, that's number 2. I will write you off so quick. No. And now I can see when people are trying to sway me because I'm in the spirit. And I ask the Lord first, Lord, what do you think about this situation? No, don't touch that. Okay. I don't have to even get my emotions involved because I'm not emotionally tied to anything. I'm emotionally tied to the Lord. Lord, what do you want in the spirit? What do you want for this situation? Okay. Vamos pa'l mambo. Let's just do that. No, thank you. Yes or no. But you cannot you cannot give up years of your life because you're easily swayed, because you want to live in the flesh. Don't do it. It will pull you off of your mission. Number 3, emotional reactions can cost you peace. Bro, please listen. It cost me so much peace because I was emotionally reactive. Do you know when like somebody says something and you're like, yo, should I respond right away? And you don't respond and then they figure it out. That's how we need to live life. Unless it's like a real dire emergency. But I really live by that. If somebody needs something immediately and they're like, I need this done now, and they're a client of mine, I wait a little bit because what's the emergency? Your date for launch is like in 3 months. What do you mean? And I wait. And then the next day they're like, hey, I'm really sorry that, I came at you that way. Blah, 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 blah. I just let it. People are human. If I were to spout off at the mouth, which is what I would normally opt in for, it would be like, you just go back and forth. Like if you have baby daddy or if you have people in your family that you have contention with or whatever, and you're reactive and the first message that they send you and the immediate you're like, oh, what is, just leave it alone. Give it a day. You don't have to react to things right away. There's wisdom in staying quiet, praying first, waiting before reacting. Everyone should be quick to listen and slow to speak and slow to become angry. James 1:19. Strong people are not people without emotions. Strong people are people who know how to govern them. Everybody's got emotions. People are gonna people. And you've got to realize that some people are gonna have a bad day or two. Sometimes they're going to come at you sideways because their dog crapped all over their carpet. So you need to understand that people are people. There are things that happen to people 10 minutes before they interact with you that have irritated them, and you're just the default person. So you got to give them a minute and be like, yo, I'm going to give this person a minute. I'm going to give them a minute to whatever that response was, however they just reacted. I'm going to let that simmer for a little bit. And I'm not going to let it bother me. And tomorrow we'll revisit. And you know what? Tomorrow we'll revisit is one of the best things, because in the morning, it's like I forgot the scripture where the Lord renews grace in the morning. And it's kind of like your mental is white in the morning. It's brand new. Like you don't think about things unless you reach for your phone or, unless you're already fighting with somebody when you wake up. No, you're just, your mind is clear and you can direct your mind. Okay, what are we going to focus on right now? Are we going to focus on the bad or what's going to happen today? Are we going to focus on the good? Are we going to go into my Bible? Am I going to pray? Am I going to be thankful? Am I going to be grateful? Or am I just going to dwell on it's like slowly comes back to you what happened the day before. And if you dwell on it, it just kind of like, oh yeah, I remember, you remember more and more and more and more until it just annoys you again. But it's literally an opportunity for your mind to get like wiped and to like give you a fresh way of looking at things, or like a fresh perspective. You know what? That's not that big of a deal. I'm not going to pay any attention to it. And you don't. That's how it should be. You have to learn that how to govern situations and how to be when you're reactive. Number 4, God wants you to be rooted, not reactive. A rooted person seeks God before reacting, stands on truth, remains steady under pressure, is led by the Spirit and not by mood. That one's tough because especially being a woman, which y'all know, being led by the Spirit when you're PMSing is, I'm not speaking that it's hard, but I'm just saying, you're like, oh, and you get your period a couple of days after, you're like, oh, I'm not a psycho. Oh, thank God. And it's not an easy thing to just like, all of a sudden you get overwhelmed and you're overstimulated and you get all this anxiety and you're like, oh my God, what's going on? And then you're bloated on top of that. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I need a steak and a Snickers. You know what I mean? And you got to realize, even in your hormonal imbalance rage, are you going to be reactive? You're going to take a minute and be like, you know what? Let me get 5 minutes in the bathroom so I can just like decompress and get back to the spiritual. How should I react? Lord, the easiest thing that you could ever do is just remove yourself and be like, Lord, that's your problem. That's your problem. That's not I'm not handling that today. I'm PMSing. Can you take care of that? I can't do that right now. Sometimes it just comes down to that. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, Romans 12:2. When you recognize that there's another way of thinking or reacting, or that you can trust God, you've built a relationship with God enough to trust Him and be like, I need you to take care of some of these situations. I don't know what to say. What should I say? Speak through me. You're going to know that your emotions are going to change daily, but God's truth doesn't. Do you know what I mean? So you have to constantly make an effort to renew your mind in the Word of God, renew your mind in prayer and worship. I feel like it renews my mind when I'm praying and I'm worshiping. It renews me. It does. It does something to you. If the enemy can control your emotions, he can control your direction. That hurts, mommy. That hurts. Yikes. Don't be so emotional about everything. Sometimes people are going to people, and you need to give them a minute, and you need a minute, and you need to be like, you know what? It's not that big of a deal. Stop being easily swayed by fear, those rabbit holes, offense, trends. There's a trend to what's going on right now in our world. You can't be emotional about it. Be like, oh yeah, I remember this from 2020. This is familiar. And now you can be solid, and now you can stand and not be as emotional as you were before when you had to go buy toilet paper and bread. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to be, now you don't have to, you don't have to answer to anybody when someone's like, you gotta wear a mask and go along the aisles at Walmart. No, I don't. I actually don't. How'd that work for you when you in 2022? You know what I'm saying? Like, how'd that work for you? People's opinions, temporary emotions. Be rooted, be stable, be led by God and not your feelings. Focus on your mission and stick to that. Anything else, que arranque pa' carajo. Bye. See you later. I don't need this trouble that's happening. I'm not going to give it any of my attention. I need to be focused on God. I'm going to pray for you. I'm sorry this happened to you. I'm going to pray for you, but I'm not going to get caught up in this mess. And you just keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? I love you. I hope you guys have a wonderful Wednesday night, and that's it. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.